You're listening to Rewilding Humanity, the podcast for those who've walked through the fire and came back with medicine. I'm Christopher Nkour, artist, plant alchemist, and a woman initiated by illness, grief, and spirit. Here, we rise from collapse, reclaim our wild, and remember who the hell we are. Let's get into it. Before we dive in, if you love what you're hearing on Rewilding Humanity, pause this episode for 60 seconds to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. As a thank you, every month I'm doing a draw for a bottle of my handmade medicinal herbal oil. And yes, it's free shipping worldwide. Just leave a review, screenshot it, and DM me on Instagram. Your words help more people find these conversations, and you might just get some plant magic in the mail. I am so excited to have this conversation today. I'm so glad that you responded to my email. I'm in such a different state from the last time that we spoke.
I know. It's crazy. Isn't it crazy how different life is when you're sick and when you're a lot healthier? It's like a different dimension, a different reality that you're living in.
Oh, seriously. Like, I talk about my experience in the sense of it feels like I was in like the fucking twilight zone for 8 months to a year.
Yep.
And like, you
Yep.
just don't even know what the hell is going on half the time. And yeah, it is wild.
Yeah, you jump timelines there for a little
Yeah,
bit. It's a different timeline.
that's really what it feels like. We first connected. I was in the psych ward, wasn't I? Did we do a Zoom call and I was on the bed, like probably sobbing?
Yeah, I remember that. It was in the psych ward. And that was, let me check because I got the records here. It was
It would have been probably
May
April.
6th,
Oh,
May 6th, 2024.
I got out the beginning of April. I was in there for a whole month.
Very different scenario. You've been doing a lot better, which is
Yeah,
great. A
yeah,
lot of changes in both of our lives. So
yeah,
it's really cool to connect here again after a year.
totally. And I really wanted to bring you on because your work was helpful for me when I was navigating this dark night of the soul, this nervous system stuff. I was doing all of this research and I came across your videos. There were like a few different people who were teaching different recovery techniques for nervous system things. And yours really struck a chord with me. And that's why I ended up reaching out. And then when I discovered that your journey was actually like pretty similar to mine because you ended up in the hospital as well. And I think they ended
Yeah.
up putting
And
you
the
in
psych ward.
psychiatric. Yeah.
Yeah.
We both had the exact same diagnosis too. Like, I think, was it like they called us like panic disorder or something?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a few things they diagnosed me with, but that was one of them. That was
Yeah.
one of them. Panic disorder,
Yeah.
somatoform dysfunction,
Yeah.
plus other stuff.
That's what they said for me as well. And
Mhm.
I actually found a lot of comfort in that, just talking to somebody who had gone through something similar and was doing similar protocols at that time, and knowing that this wasn't like a forever thing. So thank you for that. Super
You're
helpful.
welcome. You're welcome.
And I really wanted to bring you on today to talk about the nervous system and all the different varieties of nervous system dysregulation out there. Like, I've been having people reaching out and sharing some things about different symptoms that they're having. And I have a girlfriend who appears to be having some like mast cell activation stuff. And I'm like, I know that's nervous system, but I'm not an expert on it. So I'd love to unpack some of that with you. But
Mhm.
before we dive into that, can we just talk a little bit about your own story and what led you into doing nervous system work and helping people in that area?
Absolutely. Yeah. The whole reason I started CFS recovery and doing what we do now is because I went through it myself. So it's really interesting because I used to be, still am nowadays, but growing up, I would say I was a high performer, straight A student, lots of sports activities. My schedule was always packed because I was always trying to be productive and making the most out of every single day. It's like team captain in wrestling and football. So my life on paper from the outside was going great. I thought, hey, this was awesome. But eventually, all that pressure and stress I put on myself started to catch up to me that in addition to starting to get hooked on coffee and energy drinks at 17, 18 years old. I would sell pre-workout at my school actually to all of these other athletes because I was in all these different sports, had many friends, and I was like, let me make some money here. Let me sell some protein, some multivitamins, some creatine pre-workout. And then what do they say when you're selling things? Don't dip into your own supply. That's exactly what I did. So my locker was full of all these stimulants. In between classes, I'm like, ooh, this tastes like strawberry kiwi. Add that to my water, chug it. Oh, this tastes like blueberry because they had all these flavors. So I started getting hooked on it.
Mm.
And it started with me getting like anxious. I didn't even know what anxiety was back in the day, but I was just so restless, jittery, would start to have headaches, was starting to have really bad sleeping issues. And then when I was 19 years old, eventually my body hit a wall. So I'm working a ton. I was working as a personal trainer. And one day I'm at the library and all of a sudden my heart starts going crazy and the room starts spinning. I can't breathe. I'm feeling pain in my body. It's like my body wanted to shut down. So, anyways, tell the front desk, they call the paramedics in, ambulance comes, and they're all trying to figure out what's going on with me. And from that day onwards, for the next 5 years, things just were on like a downward spiral with my health. That kind of kicked it all off. And I could not work out for the next about 7 or 8 years after. That's when things changed for me. And I officially stepped into the world of CFS or chronic fatigue syndrome. What I now know is a hypersensitive nervous system. And after that, for the next few years, I was trying to figure out what was even happening to me.
Mm.
Obviously, I went to the emergency room. They ran all these tests. They said, you're perfectly fine. You're a healthy young man. Obviously, didn't feel like that. So I kept trying to go back to work and trying to exercise again and just reintegrate back into normal life. But my capacity for life was so much lower. And I was having all these symptoms. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even focus. The brain fog was insane. Pain in my body, palpitations. So I did all the tests you could think of. I saw a cardiologist, did the Holter monitor test, sleep studies, cortisol tests with a, what is it? Who does, oh, not a hematologist, maybe a hematologist, one of those people who test
Oh,
your hormones.
endocrinologist.
Endocrinologist.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Neurologist, every kind of doctor I saw, therapist for all this stuff. The doctors just passed me around like a hot potato because I do a test, fingers crossed and hoping that they would find something that explains what's going on. They said, perfectly fine. Go to this neurologist. I wait 6 months. They do some tests. They hold up my, I have to squeeze their fingers and they shine lights in my eyes and they're like, yeah, perfectly fine. So it was really frustrating because I was continuing to get worse and worse every time I try to do things, but all these tests are coming back perfectly normal. So not only is it a physical thing, now I'm really starting to think I'm going crazy. I'm like,
Mm.
this must be a nightmare to have some kind of undiagnosed illness. No one can figure it out. So I started to lose my identity. My whole life, I was an athlete. I was really smart. I had a lot of friends, big social circles. And now I'm just at home all day, all summer. My friends are asking me to do stuff. I'm like, I can't. I can't eat certain foods because I flare up, get severe reactions to it. I'm not sleeping for days. And there were times where I got a little bit better. I could go back to work for 6 months. Then I'd hit a wall and crash again, get even worse. I'd build myself up, work a little bit more, crash again. So that happened for about 4 years. On the last time I went back to work in that period, I crashed really hard. And I was living at my grandparents' house for 8 months straight. And when I was barely living, I was completely bedridden for that time. So they were spoon feeding me. I was wearing a blindfold most days. They had to close the curtains. I had to wear earplugs most of the time.
Mm.
They had to feed me. I took a shower maybe once a month. I couldn't even go to the washroom on my own. Like to pee, I had a bucket beside my bed for about 6 months of that because actually the last 2 months were in the hospital and things just got crazy around that time. Like I was bedridden at my grandparents for that was actually about 6 months. Then I moved over to my dad's place and a week after I moved to my dad's place for him to take care of me, my grandpa, who was wiping me down, brushing my teeth, feeding me, taking me to appointments, and pushing me in a wheelchair, he passed away. He
Oh.
died of a stroke. So this is like my pillar of strength, the guy who's my lifeline, him and my grandma. And one day he's carrying me to the washroom, wiping me down, brushing my teeth. The next day I'm holding his hand in emergency room. He's unresponsive. And I remember as I was holding his hand, I was in a wheelchair. I was holding his hand, and right as I held his hand, like he passed away, flatlined. I felt this huge adrenaline rush come over me. And in the Filipino culture, the Philippine culture, they say if someone's really sick in the family, a lot of times there's an elder who just naturally passes away and they help the sick person recover. And I felt that. I felt a huge rush of energy come over me and it was overwhelming.
Mm.
So when I got home, I was wiped out. For the next week after that, I think I was drinking blended tilapia and rice and water. So
Wow.
I could not function at all. My dad would blend it. I'd drink it, and then my stomach would hurt so bad. And I had gallbladder issues. It was really bad to the point where I couldn't even move in bed. There was about a 24-hour period. I remember I couldn't even lift a finger. If I tried lifting a finger, it felt like I was being electrocuted.
Mm.
Even breathing, small movement of my chest, it felt like someone was shocking me with a taser or something. It's horrible. And that's probably the hardest 36 hours of my entire life. So eventually, that's a pretty bad state to be in. So I was like, Dad, call the ambulance. I had been to the hospital several times before that, but they never took me seriously, sent me home. This time was bad. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to die. If this goes on any longer, I haven't slept in 8 days. I can't move for the last day, can't eat. I can barely talk. Blindfold, earplugs. I'm just melting away here. So they call the ambulance. I go there in a stretcher. They finally let me stay overnight to run some more tests. And I was in the ICU for about a month. And even that alone, I could write a whole book on that first month. It's brutal. They're feeding me medication. I'm hooked up to IVs for 3 weeks straight. They're trying to detox my body from all the supplements I was taking and medication that other doctors were giving me. So after 4 weeks, they said, you know what? You're not going to die. We can't keep you in ICU. Clearly, nothing's wrong with your physical body. Something's wrong, but your organs are functioning okay. Like your heart's okay, your intestines, your stomach, they're all okay. So this the only thing that explains this is a problem in the brain. Like clearly something's off here, but your body is physically okay. So if you're open to it, we'd love to introduce you to a psychiatrist. I said, introduce me to a wizard or whatever, anybody. I'll take any advice at this point. If you told me, tell me to do anything, I'll do it. Because at this point, I feel like I'm knocking on death's door. So they're like, okay, we'll let you work with a psychiatrist and talk to him, see if that helps. But we don't have any more beds in the ICU. So if you do want to, you have two options. You can go home. We send you home in a stretcher, and you could come back every day to talk to the psychiatrist, or we have some extra beds in the psych ward. So you could stay there. You'd be a volunteer, so you could leave anytime you want, but it's just a holding spot so you don't have to commute. And I told them, I'm like, guys, I'm not crazy. I don't belong in a psych ward. This is real symptoms. These are
Mm.
real. And they said, no, we know. That's why you'll have a special wristband. You can leave anytime you want, but that's where we can keep you. I said, I don't really have a choice. I can't go home like this. So we said, okay. Anyways, they wheeled me over into the psych ward, and that's where things really turned around. I remember getting in there and being like, I don't belong here. It's people like running into walls and stuff and yelling. And I'm sure you've experienced some stuff there.
Oh God, a whole book chapter. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
I
Yeah.
was,
The whole time you're just like, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. I don't belong here.
yeah. I'm like, and that's not a shot at the people in there. I became really good friends with them, like
Yeah.
learned about their stories. But I was like, I basically kept telling myself, I'm not crazy. I
Yeah.
don't belong here. But I think because I had a special wristband, they just treated me a little bit differently. But yeah, that's where things turn around because I met my doctor and I was in a wheelchair when I met him. And he said, you know what? I've looked at all your charts, all your tests you've done, and I know exactly what's going on here. You have a hypersensitive nervous system. That's what's causing your symptoms. And I was like, that's the first doctor who said he had an idea of what's going on. No way. Finally, I get an answer. And he's, yeah. So come sit down. I'll show you. Then he starts drawing on the board things about the stress threshold, things about how anxiety works with all of this, how you go on a downward spiral, how there's a glitch in the software of your nervous system, how to update that software, all these different recovery principles that we have now built upon inside CFS recovery. And then basically, as soon as I met him, I went from being completely bedridden, non functional, to going into a wheelchair a week later, using a walker 2 weeks later, and then standing on my own 2 feet, making my own food, moving around independently within 4 weeks. And then after that month in the psych ward, walked out of that hospital on my own 2 feet with garbage bags full of all the snacks and stuff my friends brought me. And I was released back into the world. And, that's where the 2.0 version of my life started. That was about 6 years ago. It's a wild journey, even just to get to that blank slate starting point of the 2.0 version. That's how a little bit about my story, how I ended up here.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so heartbreaking. And I hate that you had to be in it for so long. So, like, the gift that you're giving now, and other people who are in this space that are creating videos and putting out this information, it allows people who are going through it to at least get pointed in some directions and realize that there's something there, because you do feel like you're going insane. The
Yeah.
symptoms that I had, 60 symptoms, and
Yes.
some of them very similar to yours. I wasn't so much on the chronic fatigue side because there's a spectrum, right? And
Yeah.
we can talk about some of the different conditions and stuff too that fall under nervous system dysregulation or severe nervous system dysregulation. But yeah, like same thing. Like I couldn't function. I could hardly walk. Like just going to the end of the street and back was just an absolute nightmare. I was starting to
Mhm.
wear earplugs, like the sensitivity of light, it was just insane. The heart palpitations and the internal tremors, like that's such a big one
Yeah.
too. And it's interesting because you go to see all of these doctors. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. They're saying there's nothing physically wrong with you. But what I noticed, because part of my recovery was to wear earplugs at night while I was going to sleep, because while I was really sensitized, like just the slightest little
Yeah.
like tick of a clock or whatever would
Yeah.
just jolt you. And but I noticed when I would put those earplugs in, I could hear, so like that shaking, that tremor,
Yeah.
I could hear it.
Yeah.
I have to tell you about something I created that's been changing people's lives. It's called Brainbow from Mindful Meds. I formulated it with a special saffron extract that has a ton of clinical evidence showing it's as effective as SSRIs for mood support, but without the side effects. The feedback has been insane. More calm, sharper thinking, deeper focus without jitters, and even restful sleep with resilient mornings. One person told us, I'm a machine on this Brainbow, and another said they were actually crying because their brain felt so clear. If you want to experience it for yourself, head to mindfulmeds.io and use the code WILDMIND for 15% off your first order. Details are also in the show notes.
So something's happening. Like the vagus nerve is fucking freaking out or doing something. So it's not in your head, and it's not necessarily part of it is a brain thing, but like your nervous system goes throughout your entire body. It touches everything and
Mhm.
it controls everything from like your heart rate to your digestion. And I had constant tachycardia and like the most disgusting heart palpitations, to the point that like I could literally hear them squish. They were so strong.
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
God, that was
Yeah.
awful. And the
Yeah.
stomach pain, like I completely lost I had no hunger for
Mhm.
months. Like I
Mhm.
lost so much weight because I couldn't even eat. But yeah, it's all connected. And when shit goes wrong, like everything in the body goes wrong.
Yeah. And I think it's basically when you're in this hypersensitive state, when your brain is in that state, it's like it has a magnifying glass or a freaking telescope that zooms in on every sensation that you experience. So things that you may not have noticed before, your heart beating, something as simple as that, trying to sleep at night, sleeping on your side. When you have a hypersensitive nervous system, you hear and feel your heartbeat and you can't sleep because it's so loud. But I don't remember the last time I actually heard my heartbeat, felt it like that. But back in the day, you're lying down trying to rest. There might as well be an earthquake in the room because every time your heart beats, like your whole body just like twitches or pulses. So it's like in that movie Limitless, that NZT pill or like this focus thing where, or like Spider-Man, when he can zoom in on certain details, that's what happens with a hypersensitive nervous system, but it's not a pleasant feeling. It's like you
No.
feel that your shoulder's itchy, it's really itchy. Your heart is beating a little bit hard when you stand up because it just needs to beat faster when you stand up. You feel like your heart is pounding. So everything is amplified. And where it gets pretty, I guess this one of the scariest parts is like when it started to cross over from just physical symptoms and sensations to the emotional stuff, because even my thoughts were amplified. Even the fears I had, I'd think of something. I'm like, oh, what if I don't make it? And what if I have a heart attack? And when I die, and then they're going to have a funeral, and this is what it's going to look like. And these are the people who are going to come to the funeral. This is what they're going to say. It's like a spiral out of control that normally you could put a stop it in its tracks. But when you're hypersensitive like this, it just goes.
Yeah.
So you start to feel like you're losing your mind when you're going through this journey. It's so much more than just physical. I think not enough people talk about that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And because you're experiencing all these physical things and like they're scary and they're really painful and you don't have answers and it's getting worse and it continues and continues. Once you get to a state where you're bedridden and all, when things are quite severe, the emotional really amplifies at that point. And I know for myself, I remember just, oh my God, just trying to move around the kitchen. I would try to have some sort of routine, get up, make a smoothie, even though I'm not hungry. And like my hands are shaking and like my whole body is like so
Yeah.
tense. And I'm trying to make something, and my mind is just looping over and over. And I can't believe this is happening. And there's a lot of trauma that comes with this too, because it's terrifying. And yeah, like it's just, everything is overwhelmed. And it's funny because sometimes it can feel like that would be the opposite, especially when you're really low energy. Like you would think of hypersensitive or like a blown out nervous system to be like high anxiety or like panic attack or like that sort of thing. And I think that is part of it. But this is when it goes like way over and above and just
Mm-hmm.
causes the whole system to collapse. And it's like you're in constant like hypervigilance and collapse at the same time.
Yeah. And one of the things that really turned it around for me was understanding what was even happening to my body. So, my doctor, I loved the way he described things because he was very solution focused and he was pretty casual about everything. I was like, these heart palpitations, I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack. And he was like, no, you won't have a heart attack. Like we did scans and everything. That's your brain putting a magnifying glass on that particular sensation. So notice this. The next time you have another symptom, notice what your mind tries to tell you, tries to come up with a story about those symptoms. And you just have to be aware. You don't even have to stop it in its tracks. Just the awareness of what's happening and how your brain is starting to play tricks on you. That alone is going to help you get through that with a little bit more grace and reduce the chance of downward spiraling. So I was like, makes sense. Okay. So I remember you taught me a handful of other things, but I started standing on my own 2 feet after no, I think I was, no, I graduated from the wheelchair to a walker. But even just that, standing up on my feet, even with supported device, like my calves were so sore. My
Mhm.
calves and my quads and my hip flexors, especially, because I didn't walk for 8 months. So I was really deconditioned. And I remember my calves were throbbing, both of them. It felt like I just did a football camp, right? Like I ran 20 miles. All I did was stand on it. So my brain started getting hyper focused on the calves. It's, oh, wait, I watched a podcast one time. This guy's calf hurt, and it's because he had a blood clot and he almost had a stroke and he could have died. What if I have a blood clot in my calves? And I was like, wait, that's the magnifying glass. They
Mm.
did the scans. There was nothing there. But I was like fully convinced that there was a blood clot. And I was about to go ask them to go check, scan it and stuff. And I was like, no, this is the magnifying glass stuff. So if it's still there tomorrow and the calves are still throbbing, yeah, maybe I'll be more concerned, but this should be temporary. So from that point on, anything within a 3-day window, whether symptoms increase or decrease, there were random symptoms. I was like, I'm going to look at it as a false alarm, right? It's probably nothing serious. If it sticks around for a week or something and it's really concerning, hell, maybe I'll ask about it. And funny thing is, these really weird symptoms, they came and went. They never really stuck around too long, as long as I was responding well to them. But just the magnifying glass, understanding that my brain was almost playing tricks on me, amplifying these things, not to scare me, but to try to keep me safe. It actually had my best interest at heart. Whereas before, I thought I was in this battle with my nervous system. I need to beat you into submission and make you function the way I want you to function. Not realizing it was just trying to help me. It was trying to save me from myself, from continuing to do all these activities and take pre-workout and drink coffee. Like, it was trying to protect me because it was trying to keep me alive, not trying to kill me. But it felt like it was trying to kill me, but it was the complete opposite intention of what it was trying to do. So that was huge for me too.
Yeah. So much to unpack there. I
Yeah.
think we should, first of all, I want to address like the hospital stuff
Yeah.
in terms of how unfortunate it is to be in this state and just not get the help that you need or that it takes so long. And I'm really confused about it because I had never heard of this condition before until it
Yeah.
happened to me. But it seems to be pretty common. There's a lot of people in your community, there's other communities out there. And I'm like, how is this not more widely understood? I know there's one person, I think I had talked to you about it. He has a program, he's down in Vancouver, and I think it's Bye Bye Panic or something. Is that?
Oh, Sean.
Yeah.
He's in
Yeah.
Texas.
Oh, is he? Okay. Anyway, so I was looking at his information at one point too, and he references this book, which maybe you've read too. It's like by that doctor from back in the 60s or something.
Is it Claire Weeks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody talks about her work and whatever. And I ended up buying the book and it was helpful. And so this is a book that was written a while back by a doctor who worked with people with these conditions. And she called it a nervous breakdown. And that's how it was described at the time. And it can be caused by all of these different things. And a lot of these programs were focused on, that I was finding were focused on solely mindset and just like pushing forward and all of these things. And she does talk about that in that book. But what people weren't talking about was that she was also recommending that people take barbiturates.
What's
Because
the barbiturate?
so that was like the benzo of the time, right? Like before benzodiazepines and like modern antidepressants and things like that, they had barbiturates, which were like an intense sedative. And she recommends that quite frequently in the book. And I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. And it's great to understand that you can get past it without medication. I know for me, it was incredibly helpful. I think for you, it was helpful in the beginning, but you still need to do the work that you talk about. So even though I was able to take medication that kind of calmed things down in my system and allowed me to have little moments of like normalcy in my day that then began to get larger periods of time throughout the day. That was key for me because I was having a really hard time like getting a handle on it. But like I still have symptoms. right? Not nearly as bad as what they were, but I really have to use mindset to continue to move forward and not to overreact to things and not to catastrophize. And I think that's a big part of what you teach, right?
Yeah. And if we were to actually, because some people are confused, or I guess there's a misconception when we say mindset. They're like, oh, so you just think some stuff and magically your symptoms go away. Well, we could break down mindset into so many different subcategories. The main thing we focus on is your response to the symptoms or the feeling of being in danger. Our whole goal is to get you emotionally to be able to go to feel a sense of safety. Because if your brain and nervous system have that sense of safety, it no longer needs to be in fight or flight mode or survival mode. And fight or flight mode or survival mode is what is driving those symptoms, because those symptoms are a self-protection mechanism to stay alive. So if we're to somehow physically in real time zoom into the brain, all the different synapses and the neurons and wiring, when you're responding well, you are actually creating physical change on a very small, deep level. You're creating new pathways in your
Mhm.
brain, actually reconnecting old pathways. So when somebody has CFS, it's not like your brain or your body is not capable of walking down the street or running or exercising. It's actually stored in there. That capability is stored in the brain. Your brain just doesn't have access to it right now because it's in complete survival mode, right? So we want to re-stimulate those neural pathways, want to respond, and that's why we want to start introducing these things slowly again. But the natural tendency for your brain is to go down the paths of self-protection, surviving, fight or flight mode, anything it can do to keep you alive. So in responding well to symptoms, you're actually creating physical change in your brain. And that's the cool thing about neuroplasticity is almost everybody who's got this, whether it's long COVID or mast cell activation syndrome or EBV, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, at some point, you're probably normal, probably living a normal life, living in life with no symptoms, pretty high capacity, just like everybody else. And at some point, you crossed over into the world of this hypersensitive nervous system where you had to be a little bit more hyper vigilant about how you do things. So if you were once normal and you somehow transitioned into this like survival mode, you can also make it go the other way, right? You can also go from survival mode to a normal mode. We just need to reawaken those neural pathways in your brain. But it's not like it forgot how to do it. It just forgot how to access those areas. You think about it like a computer. Your brain is a software, and there's different folders for different activities and different ways of living. Your computer system, it just forgot, it got locked out of certain folders. And the folders that it got locked out of was how to live normally, how to walk down the street without symptoms, how to go into public without having a panic attack, how to eat without having these severe reactions to foods. But we just need to update the software, get access to those folders again. And next thing you know, you're fully functional. So at a very simple analogy that my doctor shared with me, he said, physically, you're actually perfectly fine. There's a software glitch. It's like a computer, right? If you have a computer and the mouse and it's not working, you'll start fixing the hardware, right? Oh, mouse is not working. Okay, replace the mouse. That didn't do anything. The keyboard's not working. Maybe the keyboard's broken. No, keyboard's working perfectly fine. Okay, how about the speakers? Perfectly fine. So maybe it's the monitor. No, the hardware itself is perfectly fine, but okay, let's go deeper. Do an analysis on the software. Oh, there's a software glitch. We didn't update it. We just need to update it. You click that button, you update everything, and now things are functioning normally. So, like with the body and using medication or trying to fix certain organs, yeah, you can fix it, but that's not the root cause, right?
Mm.
And sometimes you'll try to fix those things, it doesn't do anything. It actually can make you worse. It doesn't hurt to try because maybe it could fix it. But if it's not working, there's a different cause. And from what we see, once you've ruled everything out, you've done your tests, you've done your scans, you've done your due diligence, gone through the gauntlet of the medical system, which unfortunately you have to do, which could be frustrating. Once you ruled all that out, you can bet your bottom dollar that this is a hypersensitive nervous system issue. So all we have to do is update that software, recalibrate your nervous system. And so we've created a system to do that, a step-by-step system. And a lot of people can do that just through watching the free YouTube videos. I know you just absorbed a lot of information and implemented it. Some people need a little bit more help, and then that's where they can work directly with us. But either way, people have the power within to solve this from the inside out, as long as they've ruled out all the other health issues.
I want to talk a little bit about what causes a sensitized nervous system
Yeah.
from the lens of trauma, stress, maybe overwork. I know everybody seems to have a perfect storm story
Yeah.
when they really hit rock bottom and start to get really sick. I worry so much for a lot of my friends, a lot of people in my life who were on a similar path that I was, where I was basically working three jobs. I had a couple of companies and I was a creative director at another large company, juggling all of these things. And I don't know, maybe that was part of it. There was also underlying health conditions, I think, for me too, that contributed to it, and then some energetic things on top of it. But I have friends that are working three jobs or 24/7, plus they have kids on top. And I see the dysregulation because it can start, sure, as like panic attacks. And like what we're
Yeah.
talking about here, this is not panic attacks. Like I know how bad a panic attack is. They're absolutely horrifying. This is worse. This is so much worse because it just never stops.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because, and what do people do? Because you get into these cycles and you're living your way a certain way and you don't know how to let go of things or you're afraid to let go of things. In my
Yeah.
case, and this is what I warn people about, it's don't get to the point that I got to. What are some of like the signs that your body may be giving you ahead of time before something like this happens? Because you don't want to get here. It's not great. And I feel like it's going to happen more
Mhm.
because of everything that's going on in the world. There's just too much, and it's too much for us to hold.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. I see a lot of people who look like they're going down that path of if you keep, I look at their life and I'm thinking if you keep living like this, you're probably going to end up like me. Maybe not as bad, but it's like a path to these health issues, path to burnout, essentially. But with a lot of these individuals, the way their mind is wired, when I've tried to bring it up to them, they'll almost see it as a challenge. Oh, that's going to happen to me. Watch that not happen to me. I'm going to keep going. I'll go twice as hard,
Yeah.
which is the whole reason they're going hard in the first place. It's a very type A personality,
Mhm.
competitive mindset,
Yeah.
conquer everything, do the impossible. I've learned to just be like, yeah, okay, do your thing. It's your life. And no matter what I say, it's not going to change how they do things until they hit that wall
Mm.
and they're like, oh, that's what this is about. Because you almost think when you're not in it, you don't think it's going to happen to you. You don't think you're going to crash. You think your nervous system can handle anything it throws your way. So some people actually have to hit that wall or that rock bottom to be like, I got to change the way I do things. I got to change the way I live my life. Because when you change the way you live your life, you also let go of an old identity. And some people are so attached to that, they're willing to sit in that fire if they could just hold on to that identity until the fire hurts too much. And they're like, let me let go of this and reinvent myself. So, in terms of the stress threshold, people are interested in learning about how do you even fall into something like this? How does that perfect storm look like? So, it's one of the frameworks my doctor taught me when I was in the hospital. It's a stress threshold. So, they're born with a certain limit of stress they can handle. Everybody's different. Some people can handle more, some people less. Regardless, everybody has a certain limit that they have. Now, as you go through life, there are things that come up that are stressful, right? So let's say your limit is all the way up here. Throughout your life, throughout the years and months and things happening, these stressors start to stack. And there's so many different types of stressors. Actually, I don't even want to call it stressors. I want to say stimulation. So many different buckets of stimulation. Stress is one of them, right? But for example, let's talk about what we could look at as negative stress or negative stimulation. Maybe you're stressed about finances, right? And then maybe you're not eating as healthy as you can. Maybe you're skipping meals, not getting enough sleep. So I'll paint a picture of my situation actually. I was working 12 hours a day, skipping meals. When I was eating, it wasn't the healthiest food. It was like fast food. I was taking supplements with stimulants in them. I was putting a lot of internal pressure on myself to be the best employee at the gym, to be the best trainer. There was that. Finances, I was trying to increase the finances and having a difficult time there. So right there's 6 things, right? The stressors start to stack. Now your body is very resilient. It can handle a bunch of this stuff, but eventually everybody's got their limits. So let's say, oh, someone passed away in the family, and then we're moving houses, and then it's tax season coming up. Ends up I owe 15 grand of taxes that I don't have. Now my credit cards are maxed out. So once these things start to stack up, you get closer and closer to your maximum threshold. Now, the closer you are to that, you start to feel symptoms. You start to feel more anxious, palpitations, insomnia, restlessness, blurry vision, ringing in your ears, things like that. But you could still function until maybe after all of these stressors or stimulation, you get COVID or something else happens. Just one more thing. It's a straw that breaks the camel's back that causes you to go over your threshold. So maybe you're at like 95% maxing out your limits. It just takes one thing to push you over to 101% or 105%. And it's interesting because people always think that, it was COVID that did it. That caused all of this. Like we look back, okay, what was your life like leading up to COVID? And they're like, oh yeah, I guess I was feeling that stuff. Was getting insomnia. There was this happening in my life, then this. So there was a perfect storm brewing, and COVID was just the lightning that struck. Everything else was cooking beneath the surface. So once you go over that threshold and you max it out, that raises the alarm system in your brain. It says, you know what? We've reached our limit. We've tried sending this body signals to slow down. We tried giving it palpitations, ringing in ears to force this person to slow down. Whenever they go in public, we make them have ringing in their ears to deter them from going in public. When they eat certain foods, we give them symptoms, reactions to stop them from eating all that junk food and unhealthy food or whatever. Anything it can do to stop you from adding on more stimulation. But if you reach that limit, eventually it goes, okay, we've asked nicely. We've given several signs to slow down. This person's not slowing down. So now we're no longer asking. Like we demand that this body slows down. In fact, we're going to force it. We're going to take away the energy. We're going to increase the anxiety, increase adrenaline, increase symptoms across the board to keep this person at home, keep them safe, keep them from adding on any more stimulation. So anything it can do to keep you put, right, from going out into the wild, it's going to do it. And so once you set off that alarm system, now you're stuck in this kind of survival mode, this fight or flight mode. And eventually, if you keep going down that path, another thing that happens, I should mention, in addition to all that stuff, another huge stressor that comes along with all of this is stressing about the health, right? It's a compounding effect. Now you're wondering, where'd all this come from? Am I dying? Do I have Parkinson's, Alzheimer's because I can't think straight, or Parkinson's because I'm shaking and I'm trembling? Do I have something wrong with my heart? Do I have ALS? All these things. Then you start Googling, then you get more terrified, and it's a downward spiral from there, right? And that's how people can get stuck in this. It's a cycle. Then you're seeing doctors and they're giving you medication to work on the symptoms, which give you more side effects. And then they give you, and those side effects, other doctors are giving you medications just to fix those side effects. And it's a cascade of things. Next thing you know, you're on 15 medications. So on top of the CFS, you're dealing with all the side effects from the medications, and your life just gets smaller and smaller until you feel like you're rock bottom. And that's typically when people find us. They're
Mhm.
searching this stuff up and they're like, oh, there's a video about internal tremors or burning skin. And I basically describe their situation to a T. And that's when their things start to click. They're like, oh, there's a reason for all of this. It's not just random. I thought I was just dying. I thought I was damaged goods basically in the genetic pool. I thought I was just unlucky. But there's actually a reason for this. And so that's usually where people start. And that's where things can start to turn around when you realize this isn't just bad luck. This isn't for the rest of my life. There's something wrong here, but I can actually fix it. There's a way out. And yeah, that's a barely summarized breakdown of the stress threshold and how people can fall into this, at least from my understanding and what we've
Mhm.
seen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've heard this explained by other facilitators too. And one of the examples that was helpful was like seeing these stressors as like balls, right? So like you're a container and there's all these different balls that go in, and it could be childhood trauma, right? And that affects your stress capacity. It could be an illness, right? And maybe this is something that's happened previous. And when you talk about being sick after COVID, we hear about long COVID, right? People who get COVID and then they have all of these weird symptoms that linger afterwards. That's what this is. It's nervous
Yeah.
system related. Same with like POTS and dysautonomia. And I thought I had that for a while. And that's when you have a hard time standing up without like your heart racing and like wanting to pass
Yeah.
out and all of this stuff. And mast cell activation, can you explain that one a little bit? And because I know, and I want to speak to this, especially for a girlfriend of mine who she's been struggling with food allergies for so long. And she's done everything like the elimination diet, GAPS, all the things, but she still can't eat stuff. And I know that there's people in your program who get to a point they're so sick that they can't even, they react to water.
Yep.
Like, first, what the fuck? And second, like, how do you work to like towards healing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, the mast cell activation syndrome, your body becomes overly sensitive to different things. Basically, your immune system is oversensitive and it reacts in extreme manner. So it thinks almost everything is a threat, even just normal food, even water. A lot of things you ingest that are normal, it sees it as a threat. So you start getting lots of inflammation and a lot of other symptoms. It's basically your immune system in constant overdrive. So we have had dozens and dozens of people come in and they have severe MCAS, right? And the thing is, they tried treating the MCAS, tried taking antihistamines, things like that. Didn't really work. Sometimes it can work if it's specifically an MCAS issue, but if people are here, they've tried those things. So that the deep root cause is a hypersensitive nervous system. So in order to fix it, it's a matter of one, building a strong foundation in your nervous system. So I wouldn't even focus on introducing these different foods again right off the bat. It's one, we just need to get this person to be able to walk, go outside more, take showers more, get to a more consistent place in their health. Once they can do that, then we can start really carefully and slowly introducing these different foods. But even then, you'll probably have some reactions to foods little by little, but you need to respond well to it. So you increase the food little by little. Only once you understand like how this stuff works, like in terms of adjustment periods, how you have the flare ups, how it's actually an opportunity to level up. So having a flare up with all this stuff, it's like training for your nervous system. Your nervous system is just a little bit sore from, I guess, the workout you just put it through with stimulation. Very similar to going to the gym, working out, and then getting really sore after, but then afterwards getting stronger. So with the nervous system, as you're trying to increase capacity, you do want to introduce new things to it. Whether it's food or walking more, you're basically going a step above what it's used to doing. It's going to have some pushback because it takes time to adjust to that level of stimulation. It'll feel uncomfortable, you get weird symptoms. If you respond well, your body will go, oh, okay, it's okay to do these things. If you spiral, it's going to go no, we're definitely not doing those things again. Drop the capacity. Let's make this person even worse because they're
Hmm.
not ready for life. So you have to slowly increase it. But MCAS, we've seen it completely reversed, actually, completely reversed. People get off medications they've been on for years once they recalibrate the hypersensitive nervous system. It's
Mm.
basically your immune system in fight or flight mode. It'll react to everything.
Yeah. Let's talk about lifestyle a little bit and how this plays into this level of dysregulation. Because for someone who might not be in critical states like we were in, but is definitely starting to have these allergic reactions or strange things happening that are not explainable, but they're not like bedridden yet. Like, what
Yeah.
is your advice?
I would say definitely pull back a little bit, right? Slow down on life. Think of all the commitments and responsibilities you think you have. If you really look at them, the world isn't going to end if you take those things off your plate. What is the low hanging fruit that we can go for right now to reduce the overall stimulation on your nervous system? Whether that's taking more breaks throughout the day when you're on your phone, whether that's cutting down on the coffee usage, cutting down on maybe the hours at work by an hour here and there. Where can we make these micro adjustments in different things to reduce the overall stimulus? A lot of people, they try to go extreme and they say, all right, I'm signing up to yoga 3 times a week. I'm going to meditate every single day, Epsom salt bath 3 times a week. I'm going to eat perfectly healthy. I'll buy a bunch of salads, prep for the whole week. And I've tried that many times, but it's just not sustainable, right?
Mhm.
In fact, trying to keep up with something like that could be more stressful because you're
Mhm.
putting so much pressure on yourself to check off these boxes. And when you miss one, you're like, all right, today was an incomplete day because I didn't get all those things done. So just focus on, if you think of the pace of life you're living at right now and the amount of responsibilities you have and the things that you're doing, if you're feeling all of these symptoms right now, your body's trying to tell you something. It's trying to tell you that you're probably redlining your engine, right? If we think of your health like a car, you're going too fast. You're going faster than your body can handle, that your nervous system can handle, right? So instead of redlining the engine, we just need to take our foot off the gas pedal a little bit, right? Live
Mhm.
life a little bit slower, walk a bit slower, just do things a little bit slower. And that alone is going to signal to your brain that, hey, I'm not in a rush. I don't need to be in this fight or flight mode. Let's slow the pace of things down. And that's what I'd really recommend. Now,
Mhm.
it also depends on what their lifestyle is like. How much are they working? Are they taking stimulants? I would overall just think of taking your foot off the gas pedal, basically. You don't have to stop everything you're doing, but just slow it down a little bit so it's more manageable. And you don't want to keep going until the wheels fall off. If you're feeling symptoms, that's like the wheels starting to wobble. Something's loose. And if you keep going, like something's going to break. The wheel's going to fall off at some point.
Yeah. And it doesn't always happen like that either. And I'm such a huge advocate for slowing down now. And I talk about that quite often. That was a huge part of my recovery. I didn't have a choice because I
Yeah.
lost everything because I was so sick. But yeah, I think there is a really important aspect of lifestyle. In my case, it's funny because it's like, yeah, I was running on all cylinders. I think because I also had this underlying health condition that was always pulling on my system. That was just like the default. That's just what I thought was going on. And I didn't realize that I was at such a max capacity. And for
Yeah.
me, it was a plant medicine journey that like tipped me over because it was a very light dose. It really didn't make any sense at the time. But because I had gone through chronic illness, trying to treat it in a way that was actually seemingly making it worse, then losing a business and then doing this plant medicine, that was like that was the thing that tipped me over. And so sometimes it can look like it just hits you out of nowhere. But I think it's just important for everyone to reflect on stressors in their life because there's no lack of them, right? Like we are all living in a very dysfunctional society. at this moment in time, and there's so many demands and so much stimulus happening. And for me, this is why nature is such a huge part of my healing and where I can go to re-regulate. That's such a potent thing for me. I see that I don't know, you've probably slowed down quite a bit. You said you moved to the Sunshine Coast, left Vancouver, and how does life look for you now?
I, in some aspects, I probably sped it up, but instead of going at such a fast pace, redlining it all the time
Hmm.
prior to me getting sick, especially in the last 6 months, I've found a pace that really works for me. So the way I work, it's almost, hey, let's redline the engine, but just for a week, and then
Hmm.
let's chill out. So the variation in the speed that I live my life at, it's very fast, and then it's pretty slow. Very
Yeah.
fast, pretty slow. And when I say slow, I wouldn't even say slow. I would say I go really hard at work for about 1 to 2 weeks at a time. And then I go really hard at my social life 1 to 2 weeks at a time, and adventure, and just trying new experiences, going around different parts of the city to make sure my life is more well-rounded, spending more time with family. But my schedule is like back to back. But it's just how I perceive those activities. Because the work, to me, it's actually fun. It's
Hmm.
almost like playtime. I love doing this. Podcast, I love doing it. I can do it all day. Building stuff, running calls. I look at it as enjoyment. So if things are really enjoyable and they align with your values, I do believe that you can actually go for longer periods of times doing them. Whereas if I were to fill out paperwork for back in the day, disability, trying to get some money for being off work, 10 minutes of that is more stressful than 6 hours of video editing.
Totally.
So if it aligns with your values,
Yeah.
you have way higher capacity for it. But right now, I like to hit the gas, redline the engine for 1 to 2 weeks, and then take my foot off the gas pedal when it comes to that area of life, and then
Mhm.
speed it up in like the social aspect, family, because I find that very fun. I find both very fun actually, but changing it up, it's if you had a hybrid car, you redline the gas engine, then you pull back, then you redline the electric engine or turbine, whatever, motor. So I'm switching between these different facets of life, and I found that works really well.
Yeah.
So on the outside, my life looks crazy busy, but I think I found the right pace. It's very sustainable, and my capacity is continuing to increase with
Mhm.
everything I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing too that I think it's important to recognize is like you can increase the capacity of your nervous system. Like you can heal it
Yeah.
in a way that it actually allows you to be able to hold more in the future.
Yep.
And again, like we want to be mindful of not burning out. And for type A people, like I'm definitely one of them. And those are the types of folks that generally end up with these types of conditions. It's like some of us are built for it. Like in human design, I'm a manifesting generator. Like I am built to do like a bajillion different things at once. And that's what I love to do. But I think what you mentioned about making sure you're really in alignment and enjoying what you're doing is really important.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I still have that type A personality, but I've learned to use all that energy and harness it in the most powerful way possible. So instead of shining like a bright lamp, here's another analogy. Instead of shining like a bright lamp, trying to do a million different things at once, I can redirect that energy to point at a certain task or a certain project like a laser. So it's all directed towards this one thing. And I actually get a lot more done now. I'm more productive than before while being busier than before, while increasing capacity and just getting more of I guess the quality of life overall is just better.
Yeah.
I figured out how to use that type A personality to my advantage versus working against me.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of that. We're at the end of our time now. I so appreciate you sharing your story and all of this incredible information on the nervous system. How can people get in touch with you and learn more about your programs if they feel that they need that additional support?
Yeah. So they can check out CFS Recovery on YouTube, where the first channel that comes up. Pretty much any symptom you're dealing with, any roadblock you're running into in recovery, whether that's how to do more activity, how to deal with symptoms, how to even have a better mindset about all of this, even the science of what's going on. It's all on the YouTube channel. And we also have an Instagram page, again, CFS Recovery, where we post tons of content every single day. And we're just trying to get this information to as many people as possible. And all of that stuff is free. And if you need extra help, you could find out more in the YouTube descriptions, but definitely check out the YouTube channel. It's a lot of great content on there.
Yep. It certainly helped me. So thank you again for that.
Yeah. And congratulations on all the progress you've made. I know how difficult the journey can be because I went through it myself. So I know a little bit about what was required for you to even get to this point. And I'm excited to see how much better you get. You'll continue getting better and thriving. So
yeah,
good on you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Still a process, but yeah, things are so much better now.
Yeah. Hey, better than a psych ward. No,
Yeah.
better than taking this call from a psych ward.
Fucking anything is, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, much better. So I think things are moving in the right direction.
I think so. Yeah, for sure. Never want to end up back there.
But yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It's a blast. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thanks for everybody who tuned in. If this resonates, make sure you share it. Please leave a comment or a review that helps us get this podcast out to more people. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
If this episode cracked you open, good. Share it far and wide so we can reach more people who are done pretending and ready to come home to themselves. And remember, if you leave a review on Apple Podcasts or tap the stars on Spotify, you'll be entered into my monthly draw for a bottle of my medicinal herbal oil. It's my way of saying thank you for helping this work reach more people who need it the most. I'll announce winners right here on the show. To dive deeper into my world, explore Wildcrafted Apothecary and Sacred Art at magicmaven.com. Discover new tools for nervous system healing at mindfulmeds.io, or bring your vision to life with me at the Brand Bruja. All the links and more are waiting for you in the show notes. Until next time, stay wild, stay rooted, and remember, you were made for this.